Dr. Swamy is a fighter against corruption in government. To his considerable credit, he has indicted a sitting cabinet minister and had sent him to jail. It has, I think, never happened in India before. He is strongly engaged in pursuing, in courts, several high-powered entities like the Home Minister, Mr. Chidambaram, even Sonia Gandhi. I mean, it gives me goosebumps, really. This fight takes not only a strong legal mind, which he is, strong and steady organized effort, which it definitely provides, but it takes rare courage. In Dr. Swamy, you have it all, like a one-man orchestra. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to quote my friend I mentioned to you earlier before, Mr. Suresh Patel, who, although he's not here, this is what he's talked about Dr. Swamy to me. He says, some try to strengthen the roots to save the tree. Others like to work on branches and leaves and hope that the tree will be saved. Dr. Swamy nurtures the roots. It is not an ordinary thing. So it is therefore my great honor to present to you Dr. Subramanian Swamy.
Thank you, Parikh ji, friends of and honorable citizens of Houston City and nearby, some from long distances. It's a pleasure to be here again to speak to you about the burning issue of our country today, corruption. I think the next Lok Sabha elections would be fought on two issues, corruption and national security. And ironically, both are related. I hope to show you the connections that exist between the two. Today, I'll structure my talk on four headings. First is why corruption is bad. Because some people think they can live with corruption. But I would like to explain to you that's burning candles at both ends. Corruption is bad. It signals, it's a cancer which signals ultimately your premature death. Second is, my topic will be, how did it get so extensive in India? Because now the numbers are gigantic. This 2G spectrum, the loss to the nation was $40 billion, which is close to 45% of our GDP. And the bribe paid was a staggering $12 billion. So therefore, and of course it was the 2G, it now turns out is the smaller of the scandals that have taken place. The coal mining scam, that is the handing out of coal mining pits to private interests, that is 3 times that of 2G. And oil field scam is 7 times that of 2G. I think if you didn't have corruption in these areas, you wouldn't have to pay taxes at all. You would raise so much resources that you might be in a position to lend to Europe and the United States to manage their economies. So it's got very extensive, and obviously it is reaching a point of explosion. So therefore, how did it get so far? I mean, how did it start, and how did it generate so much? Then third topic, a third heading would be, is there a cure today? And what needs to be done? And finally, since you are all living in the United States here, you would like to know in what way you can contribute to this struggle, because it is really an international struggle. And I think, therefore, fighting corruption worldwide or fighting corruption in India, they're all part of the same thing. So these four headings I would address my meetings. I believe there'll be questions at the end. And so I'll welcome any of the questions. I would say that those of you who find that I'm not able to or didn't completely answer your questions or didn't answer your question at all, you can all send me an email at swamy39@gmail.com, which the sponsors have. I have a website where there are two websites. One where a more sophisticated analysis is there for academic type people, and one which is more for people who want a quick survey of what is going on. The quick survey of what is going on is contained in my party website, janataparty.org, and the more sophisticated analysis will be in something called indiaright.org. So there are, in a case you can't remember these, you just send me an email at swamy39@gmail.com. I'd be happy to forward to you the website in reply. Now, I begin first by stating my thesis that today India would have been a global power but for the negative effects of corruption. And in the end, I will conclude with how we could have been a global power today had we not been corrupt. And corrupt we are by all objective standards. The Transparency International, which is an international NGO, has maintained over years an objective measure of corrupt countries. They have made 5-6 points and then given it a number and then created an index called the Transparency Index. And in that they have ranked country according to their level of corruption. The most honest country has a rank of number 1, and the most corrupt country will be at the bottom of the list. And they have done it for about 140 countries, ranked them. The country number 1 is countries like the Scandinavian countries or New Zealand or something like that. United States would be the 20th country down the list. India is now 94th country, little better than Pakistan, but that is not a great matter for satisfaction. And China is a little around there only. China, in fact, in my opinion, is a more corrupt country than India, but it's not extensive like ours. In China, there are few people who pay and pay heavily, and then everything moves smoothly. Whereas in India, you will have to go right down to the chaprasi and pay him something. So that's a difference. The amounts are smaller in India than China, but nevertheless, you have to spread it around. So the Transparency Index shows India's position going down every year. 10 years ago, our position was much higher. We were the 75th country. Now we are 94th. And we may end up with the 140th number very soon, the way things are going. Now, is this endemic or is this something that has been there for a long time? Well, it's extensive because the biggest deposits of illegal bank accounts in safe havens is that of Indians. Switzerland says very clearly that we will go bankrupt without the Indian illegal bank accounts. And see how Switzerland makes money on the money deposit by Indians. You know that in a secret bank account in Switzerland, they don't pay you any interest for the deposit. You have to pay them a 2% service charge. And then what Switzerland does is it takes the money you have deposited, takes it to the American bond market, which is a safe market, and invests it there for 4%. So 2% from you as a service charge and 4% from the bond market. Switzerland, without doing any work at all, gets 6% on a huge investment, which is a $1.5 trillion. Indian deposits today abroad are $1.5 trillion. And that's a huge amount. That means translated would be about 70 lakh crore rupees. So the extensiveness you can see there, 40% of our GDP today is black money. So we see that the problem of corruption is spread very widely. But the question arises, are we by genetics corrupt people? Well, answer is no, because at least we have some records which show that people who came from abroad, say 1400, 1600, 1700 years ago, Fascian came from China. He was looking for Sanskrit texts on Buddhism. And he wrote a book after staying in India for many, many years about his travels within India. And he said the one significant thing from the length and breadth of India, I can say, these are very honest people. So honest that when they go out of their houses, they don't lock the doors. And if you, by any chance, after visiting them, leave something behind by mistake, they will chase you and find you and return it back to you. That is what Fascian wrote in 400 AD. Similarly, Yuan Chuang, who came from China again in 1100 AD, that is 700 years later, he writes exactly the same thing. Vasco da Gama says the same thing. Mark Twain, who came much later, about 600 years ago, he says the same thing. Not 600, but 400 years ago, he says the same thing. So we have till about 1700 AD, we had a reputation for being a very honest country, honest people. Not only honest people, we were the most developed nations, most developed nation in the world at that time. We had invented mathematics, zero, decimal, surgery, plastic surgery, rockets. Today it is acknowledged in the United States that the first rockets were designed by Indians. And the British East India Company, when they were beaten by rockets in Coromandel Coast War, they stole some rockets, took it to England, put in a lot of money, and got it reinvented and redesigned. And that's how they acquired the rockets. And you read any book like Werner von Braun's book or George Gamow and all, they'll all start by saying that rocket science began with India. So here is a country which is not only the most honest, but is the most developed. It was so developed that when in 1676, merchants started coming from United States, particularly from Boston area, to India. They went to South India, to Kanchipuram, which was a port, flourishing port at that time, and started trading. And the king of Kanchipuram once called them and asked them, "What is it that I can do for you?" So they said, "Well, we are very comfortable here. Everybody is very nice and upright, and we buy all your goods, whatever we can't produce in our country. But we have one complaint, that we come with empty ships and then buy and load all the goods and then go back. Can you not buy something from us?" So the king said, "What can I buy from you? India produces everything. What is it that I can buy from you?" So they insisted that he should try and find something to buy from their country. So then he said, you see, in Kanchipuram I have never seen snow and ice. I know that there is ice in Himalayas, but then I have to go all the way there. In your country, I heard that your winters are so severe that for 6 months you get ice. So if you bring ice, I will buy it. And believe it or not, in the Boston area, there's a big lake called Fresh Pond in a small town called Belmont. And they have put a sign there, even today you can see the sign there, that here stood Tudor Ice Company, which used to export ice to India. And what they used to happen is that in the winter, the pond used to freeze. And then they used to cut the pond and put sawdust and take it all the way to India. I mean, how many months it would have taken, because you had to go around the Cape of Good Hope. And they maintained the temperature and brought ice and sold it. That was the state in 1676 or thereabouts, between the relationship between India and United States as far as trade is concerned. That advanced we were by then contemporary standards, and honest on top of that. But then many other things happened. Foreign invaders came, they looted this country, some of them took over the power here, stayed here, and ruled for a long time. And sometimes people say that if you are so good, so honest, so upright, so prosperous, how come you were not able to defeat these foreigners? Of course, in the beginning, there was, our people did defeat the foreigners who came, but our warfare rules were so civilized that ultimately the foreigner understood, and then he started using that to see that we are put at a disadvantage. One rule we had is that no war will start before the sun rises, and no war will continue after the sun sets. So in the morning you start after the sun rises to go and have for a battle, and the night you come back to your tent and go to sleep. And the next morning after your bath and all that, you go back to the battlefield. That was the rule we had. And Muhammad Ghori, after being defeated several times, he realized that the secret is to come at 3 a.m. in the morning when our people, soldiers are getting up and going to the bathroom. That is the time to catch them. And his first victory came, he himself, his own chronicles record that. Similarly, we had another rule that you will not fight in the civilian centers, you will not fight in agricultural lands, you will fight in open Maidan, like Kurukshetra. Or when Ravan wanted to fight with Ram, he came out of his fort. He didn't say, Ram, you come inside the fort and I'll take care of you. But instead he came out, fought in the open Maidan. So he had to fight in the open Maidan. So ultimately when Ghazni came, the first thing he did was destroy the crops. So therefore, and create mayhem and panic by going to civilian areas. And finally, the big mistake that Prithviraj Chauhan made, we had a value system that if you, after losing the battle, you apologized, then we would return everything and send you back with a full goodbye. And I think Prithviraj Chauhan perhaps 16 times, 15 times, people don't know how many times, large number of times he forgave Muhammad Ghori. He should not have forgiven him even once, in my opinion, or at most once. But unfortunately, he forgave him each time. This civilized system of war that we had, the first person to realize that it required complete overhaul was Shivaji. And that's why the Marathas became so successful. And so I come back to this, that there is no record to show that we were a habitually corrupt nation. This has come in a big way in the recent 2 centuries, and more especially after 1947. So I come to the second question. I will come to the first question. Why is corruption bad? Many people think it's grease money. What is the harm if you give a little? Some people, of course, legitimately say, if I want to buy a house in Delhi without giving money in black, nobody will sell it to me. But that's a short-term situation. I'm not asking you, each one of you, to do something which puts you in an impossible position. We must attack the system. If you want tomorrow this black money in house sales to go, just abolish this stamp duty thing. Much of the reason why people have to pay in black is because of the stamp duties. So therefore, that's the reason. I'm not suggesting therefore that you should not buy a house till people are ready to accept in checks fully. But I would say that we should look for a cure by which people don't have to pay in black money. The real problem is this. When you engage in a corrupt act, usually at the public level, supposing I bring out a tender for building of a road, then what happens if one of the person who cannot compete in the tender because he is not so competent approaches the minister and says, if you give me this tender, if you manipulate and get me the tender, then I'll give you so much bribe. So the minister then fiddles with the conditions in such a way that the tender is altered in an impossible way for all others except one person. That tender is given to the person who then gives the bribe. Now, this gentleman has paid so much bribe to the minister, he has to recover it. So what does he do? He builds the road with substandard material that doesn't meet the specifications necessary for a good road. And as a consequence, gets substandard roads, one monsoon, and the road develops a pothole. So this is the first effect of corruption is you get substandard goods. You do not get the best. You get adulterated food. You get adulterated milk. So across the board, the quality of your life goes down because of corruption. And because the people who are supposed to enforce the laws, they are corrupted and therefore they do nothing. And you are an individual not in a position to make a difference. It then goes to further other things. Tomorrow you want to get an appointment as a government official, you have to pay the minister money. Then so people with less qualification get in, so unmeritorious people get in. The quality of administration suffers, the quality of judiciary will suffer. And then you see it becomes a kind of a general accepted norm, making money through corruption. If you can get away with it, do it. So that's the first negative effect that corruption has. The second negative effect it has is on your national security. Money that you get in cash in corruption, nobody is going to give you money in check because that can be traced. So they give you in cash. That cash, you see, is then given in a big part of that is given to the hawala operators to convert it into foreign exchange and put it in a Switzerland bank account or a Liechtenstein bank account or a Virgin Island bank account or a Cayman Island bank account. So the hawala operators get the money. They don't take it with them abroad. They leave it in India. Then they go to Dubai. And from Dubai, they will call their partner in Switzerland, say that please deposit so much money in such and such bank account of such and such minister, and I will have it in rupees. So when somebody wants to bring money from abroad and wants to get a better rate than what the official exchange rate is, then we will have the cash, the rupees in India to pay him while you collect the dollars from him there. So this hawala operation is a highly developed operation. The only problem is that in Dubai, you cannot do business unless you keep the Pakistan's ISI in good humor. And therefore, every Hawala operator has some relationship with the ISI official of Pakistan's Secret Service, and he informs them. If he informs Dawood Ibrahim works for the ISI of Pakistan. So, therefore, Pakistan knows the name of every minister, every political leader who has a bank account, how much he deposited it, on which day, in which bank. That also Pakistan has. That's powerful information because you can be blackmailed with it. People ask me very often why we cannot take a stronger stand against Pakistan. After all, this November 2008, November 26th, this 26/11 as it's called, is one of the most horrendous open attack by Pakistan on India. And India has never retaliated. Now we are ready to even play cricket match with them and go on as a business as usual. It is my opinion that today's government is largely blackmailed by Pakistan and will not be in a position to take any tough action against anything which might lead to a disclosure of a bank account by the Pakistan ISI. People ask why, when Supreme Court has said very clearly that Afzal Guru should be hanged, why is he not being hanged? Because that would invite retaliation from Pakistan. So how did this happen? By the simple act of transferring your money to a foreign bank account. You use agents who are amenable to foreign countries. Now, it's not only Pakistan. The Americans have access to that kind of data. The Chinese have. Almost every country keeps its people there who monitor these things. And the Americans, of course, do a terrific job with the help of computers because of terrorist financing, which they feel very strongly about. Naturally, they have been successful in stopping any terrorist attack taking place after 2001, even though many were planned in a big way for the United States. The United States is a special target of the Islamic terrorists. But the Americans, because of their information network, their ability to follow money trail, they have managed not only because of that, but additionally because of that, they've managed to stave off terrorist attacks. So every country of the world knows what your leaders' bank accounts are, or where they are, and how much they have. Recently, somebody published a thing to show that Sonia Gandhi is the fourth richest politician in the world. Now, how did she become so rich? She is not past the 5th class. Originally, she said that she was educated in the University of Cambridge, but then I got a letter from the University of Cambridge, there was no such student. But she came from a very poor family. And whatever property they had, the Americans had grabbed it when they captured Italy, because Sonia Gandhi's father was part of Mussolini's party, fascist party, and also later on he became a soldier in Hitler's army, and he was taken as prisoner by the Russians during the war. So they were utterly poor, so poor that they had to send Sonia Gandhi to England, to work as a waitress or a barmaid or whatever, at some such level, because they needed money. And she went after an education which didn't exceed the 5th class that she got. So there now she has become very rich. According to one estimate, she has $20 billion. $20 billion is a lot of money. Now, this is all in foreign accounts. And of course, therefore, she's able to spend it when she comes for medical treatment here to the New York City Sloan Kettering. She's able to pay for not only for her, for the entire entourage, etc., in dollars, and there's no account of it. When I filed an RTI application to find out how much the government of India spent on her medical treatment or whatever it was in Sloan Kettering, they said zero, because it was paid by her, and she has that kind of money which he can pay without difficulty. So we have today that kind of situation where politicians have a lot of money and they are compromised because the way they transfer the money into foreign bank accounts makes them vulnerable. There are other aspects also. The third aspect would be what this money does to your investment priorities in India. In our country, people wonder how is it that even when there's an economic recession, the property market never seems to fall. The answer is very simple. Much of the property market is dealt with in black money. So black money goes into property markets. The property prices today are so high. To get an apartment in Bombay or Mumbai is as expensive as getting it in London, or even more expensive. So the property market rates of return are now so high that people who are making investment in making cloth for the people or shoes for the people, they say, why should we put money into this? We'll put it in property. This is one of the things. Similarly, with much of the money, people buy all kinds of luxury goods for their houses, air conditioners, refrigerators and all. I'm not talking about the usual things that middle class buys. I'm talking about the high class, high quality things that they buy and put it in every room. The amount of money that they spend on luxury goods is a huge amount. And as a consequence, all the luxury goods industries, the rate of return goes up. And when the rate of return goes up, the future investments will pull out from other sectors and saying, why should we earn 5% on our investment when we can earn 25% on luxury goods production? So today, 70% of our investments are directly or indirectly going to produce luxury goods in a country which has, say, 30% people poor, and you have this kind of a lopsided investment priority because of corruption. Today, people complain about food prices. And food prices are going up not because there is a real slump in food production, at least not in that ratio. What is happening is that the government has cleared, for some mysterious reason, forward trading in food grains prices. So today what is happening is the farmer is not going to accept a check. He wants cash. So industrialists have got into the agricultural market. They go to the wholesale market and buy up everything that the farmer brings. And then they put it in cold storages and so on, and create an artificial shortage in the country. And the food prices shoot up. And at the peak of it, they take out all that from the cold storages, and it comes back in the market, and then the prices fall. If you look at the agricultural prices of the last 3 years, you'll see a highly cyclic movement, and this is because of now, for the first time, the entry of black money into agriculture. So you see even your stock markets. What happens today is that money goes abroad and then comes back to India under a financial derivative called participatory note. And it goes into the stock market shoots up, and then you sell, and then the stock market comes down, and then again when it's at the bottom, you again bring money from abroad, rerouting it. So money going from your country out, and then through Hawala, and then coming back into India through the participatory note. The stock market today is out of control. It is in a highly fluctuating stock market. So the whole economy is disturbed. It's no more a question of grease money. It's not a question of some fellow getting a contract, giving the minister some money which he needs for an election or something like that. It impacts the whole economy. And therefore, I consider this as a very, very serious cancer on our society. And it lowers the rate of return on money. It sub-optimizes your investment priorities. The quality of goods you get goes down. And the extent of adulteration goes up, because then there is no one. Once corruption starts, then who's going to do the monitoring? So the whole economy has been completely dented. Our country would have been a developed country today had, in 1947, Jawaharlal Nehru not prevailed over Sardar Patel and even Mahatma Gandhi. See, both Mahatma Gandhi and Sardar Patel wanted a market system. They didn't want the government to get into business, into economic activities. They wanted the government to maintain law and order and do other things to make society more livable. But Jawaharlal Nehru was enamored of the Soviet Union. One never knows why he was so enamored of Soviet Union. Perhaps there was something to do with what the Soviets did to Subhash Chandra Bose, I don't know. It's a future research that will reveal that. But he was enamored of this Soviet model, which didn't work anywhere in the world. And he put it in India. Now, what was the Soviet model? The Soviet model was that you industrialize the nation by squeezing agriculture, by extracting resources from agriculture and putting it in industrialization. That's what Stalin did in Russia. But that was not suitable for India. Because during the British period, they appointed the zamindari system. They appointed zamindars in a zamindari system. And what was the zamindari system? All the criminals were picked up by the British and told, we, the British Indian government, want so much money every year to run the administration of India and to finance make payments to the British soldiers who are coming from England. And for our administrative expenses, we need so much money. You collect us so much money and give it to us every year. How much you collect, we are not concerned. You can collect 10 times that much from the people. But you must give us this X amount every year to us. And we will empower you with the right to make seizures, confiscate land, do whatever you want. It literally made them into authorities, legal authorities in the rural areas. And the zamindari system sucked the blood of the peasantry. Why it was brought? Well, it's a convenient system. You don't have to collect money from the people. Somebody is collecting it for you, and he happens to be an Indian. But more, they were concerned that in 1857, which the British had called as mutiny. It was not a mutiny. It was like Veer Savarkar said, it is the first war of independence, where the peasantry financed the Rajas and Maharajas and provided them with the access, the equipment, the manpower to launch this battle royal for the liberation of India. And afraid that this peasantry has done this, it can do it again, the British decided to break the back of agriculture. And our agriculture became poor and miserable only because of that. There were some princely states which had reached an agreement with Britain after they had given a beating to British troops. The British signed an agreement with them, like the Sikhs. The Sikhs had beaten up in 1846 the British soldiers, and so the British signed an agreement with them. So agriculture in these states, princely states, were not that much affected. That's why Punjab at time of independence was already ahead of the rest of India. And parts of Mysore, Tanjavur, these are all doing relatively better than other parts of India, certainly better than UP and Madhya Pradesh and so on, because of the fact that these tracts were directly administered by the British. And so this Jamindari system extracted everything from agriculture. In 1947, our agriculture was bone dry. And this bone dry agriculture, you put a Soviet model to extract more resources from that. It shows how unreal and out of touch with India Jawaharlal Nehru was. And this model then had an additional feature, which was even worse, which was that all transactions will be dominated by the state government, by the government, and it will be done through licenses and quotas. These licenses and quotas were to be given by the government for anyone wanting to do any economic activity. And ultimately what happened is a new class of touts came in, and these licenses and quotas began to be sold in the black market. And that's how the process of black money started in India. The licenses and quotas. The Soviet model was a failure, we all know. The best example of that is the comparison between East Germany and West Germany. They were one country till 1945. Germany lost the war. Then the Allies broke Germany into two countries, East Germany and West Germany. West Germany adopted democracy, market economy. East Germany, under Soviet influence, adopted the Soviet model. In 1990, both East Germany and West Germany became one again after the break of the Berlin Wall. And then the world saw the huge difference between East Germany and West Germany. Even today you can go and see. East Germany is far behind East Germany. That is almost like a laboratory test, because the Germans were one people, one history, one background, equally destroyed in World War II. And you see, by 1990, West Germany has become a developed country, and East Germany is far behind. And because the Soviet model did not produce any results. It didn't produce in North Korea compared to South Korea. It didn't produce for China before economic reform and after economic reform. You can see the difference. And ultimately, it didn't do it for Soviet Union, which invented the model. Namboodiripad used to jokingly tell me very often, when the Soviet Union, in its heydays of the Soviet Union, do you know, he said, Mr. Swamy, there is no inflation in Soviet Union, there is no poverty in Soviet Union, there is no unemployment in Soviet Union. In 1991 August, I told him, now there is no Soviet Union also. 16 countries it is broken into: Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Lithuania, Georgia, etc., etc. It's broken into 16 countries today. And we see how far behind the Soviet Union really was. So this Soviet model not only ruined our economic development. We had a food crisis in 1965, we had a foreign crisis. And it's only after 1990 when Narasimha Rao asked me to prepare the blueprints for economic reforms, and his finance minister implemented it, Mr. Manmohan Singh, and an economic revolution came to our country, growth rates increased. So during this period, enormous corruption had taken place by the sale of licenses and so on. That's how it started. But now it is continuing even after market reforms, because it's continuing in those areas where there is no market principle operating. 2G is what? There was no auction of the licenses. What was done is that Raja decided that he will allot license on what he calls as first come, first served principle. Those who come first to him will get the license first. I mean, it's a very strange way. Raja was asked, on what basis are you doing first come, first served? He said, in cinema tickets also, those who come first will get the cinema ticket. So why not here also? But it was actually a device for his favorites to get the license. And people who had access to him came and on the day appointed when we were to come and be first in the line or first in the queue, some people are already sitting in his office collecting the license. And he fixed, and the price of that spectrum was fixed not at the market price of 2008, but the market price of 2001. That was fixed by Chidambaram, because he was finance minister, and he was responsible for fixing the spectrum price. Today, he has now again been appointed chairman of the group of ministers to determine the spectrum price for 3G. So at that time also he was solely responsible. And he contributed the price fixing at 2001, and Raja in this first come first served basis. And there was a huge difference between the prices of 2001 and price of 2008. Because in 2001, the number of mobile sets was only 40 million. In 2008, it is 700 million mobile sets in India. So a huge market, big demand, and the price was 10 times. 2001 price was 10 times price of 2001. Raja also said, no, if I give spectrum prices cheaply, then tariffs will also be low. Yes, provided you didn't allow these people to sell the licenses. So many of the companies which got the licenses at a low price of 2001 sold it to foreign companies at 8 times the price. Some of them sold part of the licenses. That is, they gave a share of use of licenses. Like Tata sold to Docomo, or somebody sold to Sistema, somebody sold to Vodafone. But 2 companies which had nothing to do with telecom, Swan Telecom and Unitech, both property companies. They were not telecom companies, they were property companies, real estate companies. And they sold it to Etisalat and to Telenor at 8 times the price. And without doing any work, they got 8 times the price they paid to the government of India. So imagine the huge profit they would have made. A total loss to the nation. Had the nation used the market force, namely the auctioning, then India would have got, the Indian government would have got $40 billion more than what it got. What it got was hardly $3 billion. But they would have got $40 billion. And this $40 billion you could have got just by auctioning it. And after all, there was an auction, but it was a private auction. That is, those who got the license from the government, they sold it at market prices to foreign companies. So I went to the Supreme Court. Of course, I went first to the High Court. High Court said, no, how can we cancel the licenses? So High Court rejected my petition. That time everybody said, what the Swamy was saying this and Swamy was saying that. The High Court is dismissed it. Went to High Court, the Supreme Court. Argued, Supreme Court cancelled all the licenses and said, order auction. Now auctions will start in August. And with the new market price of 2012, how much the government is going to get in revenue? It is going to get 7 lakh crore rupees in new revenue. Our total tax bill is 5 lakh rupees, 5 lakh crore rupees. I mean, the tax revenue that government gets total is 5 lakhs. And one auction, and that too of 2G. There's 3G left, there's 4G left, all that is to be auctioned. But in one 2G you're going to get 7 lakh rupees, 7 lakh crore rupees. Same thing with auctioning. So after the economic reform, the reform has been more deregulation. It has not been the open acceptance of the market principle. Wherever possible, the government is putting an obstruction. Right now, in the Supreme Court is a case which I have left in the middle, but I hope by the time my turn won't come before I return back, which will be on 31st. The Supreme Court is hearing a government petition saying, okay, you can auction the spectrum, we don't mind. We agree to that. There's no question they're not minding because I won the case. The court has directed you have to do auction. But I also argued that that same logic which the court has used for ordering auction of the spectrum, the same logic can be applied to all other natural resources. So the government is getting very upset, and so they've gone to Supreme Court and said, no, this policy should be only for spectrum. And I'm arguing, no, it should be for all. Well, we'll see how it goes. But in my opinion, if we are going to adopt the market system, then we must apply the marketing procedure everywhere. Discretion should be the minimum. So today, if the corruption has come to this level, it is this privilege you are given to public authorities to handle the resources of the country in their own discretion. In my opinion, if we had made sure that public officials have no discretion whatsoever in how they are going to price a resource, natural resource particularly, or any resource within the power of the government, but that it will be decided, the price will be decided by the market. You can put additional conditions. For example, if somebody wants land for schools, we don't have to auction. We can make special arrangements for that and say that the government fixes this flat price for schools. But for commercial purposes, commercial exploitation, the government must auction in every case. And if that is done, you won't have to pay taxes at all in India. You will get enough revenue this way. So, consequently, it is the failure in the economic reforms, because only really economic reforms took place in the 5 years when Narasimha Rao was Prime Minister, and I had also held a minister rank position with him with the job of looking after the WTO matters. Finance Minister was Manmohan Singh. Of course, Manmohan Singh is very good when you ask him to implement something, but if you ask him to take decisions, he can't take decisions, you see. He's not cut out for that kind of thing. So as Prime Minister, he's a failure. But as Finance Minister, he was good, because Narasimha Rao would consult with me, and then he would tell Manmohan Singh, you have to do this, and he used to do it efficiently. So that after that 5 years, there's been no serious economic reform. There's all fiddling, little bit here, little bit there. But the fundamental thing of knocking out wherever politicians, public officials had discretion, that has not taken place yet. Even today, if you want a electric connection, you have to pay a bribe, because it is still, the distribution is owned by the states. If you go to any state outside Delhi, you go to any state, Madhya Pradesh, the state government owns the state electricity board, or rather controls the state electricity board. So the market reforms have not come in a big way into India. Same thing with labor unions. We are still working in the Soviet model stage, where the labor unions, have a stranglehold on industry. And that's why industry is preferring capital-intensive production, when capital is most expensive and labor is cheapest in India, but we are not doing it. So I would say that the fault is not in economic reforms. People say, oh, economic reforms came and this has all happened. So the third part I would say is that is because of our error in adopting a economic model which was not suited for India, and disregarding the advice of Mahatma Gandhi and Sardar Patel, we went with the decision of Jawaharlal Nehru to have a government-controlled economy. And by the time 40 years are over, only then we could get rid of it. And even today, we have not got rid of it fully. It's still there in parts, and those parts which are causing the corruption. Now, a question arises, is there any way now to reverse this vast spread of corruption in the country? Well, I think there is a way. One good thing I find in India is that every corrupt person says, no, I'm not corrupt, I'm a very honest man, it's all politically motivated, these charges, and so on. No one says, no, no, corruption is necessary. I have to do it. Baba, I have to pay for my election. I have to pay this. I have to pay that. Nobody. In Indonesia, you will find politicians say, little money here and there we have to take because we have to run our expenses and so on. But in India, even today, everybody wants to be known as a sadhu and says, no, 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 I am very honest. I am very upright. See, I am so honest. But you see, this is all politically motivated, media organized, etc., etc. So there is still, honesty is still a value. And I think that is because of our Sanatan Dharma. See, in Sanatan Dharma, you see, we divided society not on the basis of money. In America, if you are a rich man, you have social status. And there's no other real criteria. I mean, there may be some here and there in small pockets. But generally, the society values the wealthy. Because this is a materialistic society. And India is not like that. And this occurred to me first time when I came as a student to get my PhD at Harvard. And my classmate, an American, asked me, can you explain to me why Indians followed Mahatma Gandhi? So I said, why? What is wrong with Mahatma Gandhi that you think we should not have followed him? He said, no, he doesn't wear clothes properly. He just wears a little rotten piece of cloth around his body. In our country, a leader must be very well dressed. He must have suit, boot, his shoes must be shining. Only then. And when I started thinking about it, I said, yes, even their dharma gurus, the Pope, for example, he has satin gown, diamond necklace, ruby necklace, sapphire necklace. His cap is full of jewels. Whereas our sadhus only wear bhagwa. Take Baba Ramdev, he may have 1,000 crores with him, but he wears bhagwa. It's only a partially covered body. So, this simplicity, sacrifice, has been a value. And if you look at the original concept of Varna, which is now degenerated into birth-based, originally, what do you find? You find that at the top was the person who had learning and nothing else. The Brahmin, for example, did not have wealth, did not have weapons, did not have land. Rishi Bhrigu had said that in society there are 4 sources of power: learning, knowledge, weapons, wealth, land. And he said that they should be distributed. Should not be in the hands of one person. And you found, therefore, the Brahmins had knowledge, but did not have weapons, did not have wealth, did not have weapons, wealth, or land. But he was most highly respected. The king had weapons, but he could not make policy. Policy, he had to go to the Brahmin and get a clearance. People who had wealth, it was nothing wrong with making wealth, but you would be judged by how much philanthropy you do. The more you give after meeting your basic needs, then only you get social status. And those who had land would be the same. There was, of course, a section whom were cut out and what came to be known as untouchables, but their children were not untouchables. Valmiki's parents were Dalit parents, but he became a Maharishi and wrote the Ramayana. Similarly, Vedavyasa, who wrote the Mahabharata, his mother was a fisherwoman. Kalidasa, who is the greatest poet he produced, Maharishi, he was a hunter in the forest. I mean, he used to cut trees, the branches of trees. So, therefore, birth had nothing to do with this structuring. But in our structuring, we never treated money as a decider of social status. And when a society, money becomes the decider of social status, greed will come in. And once greed comes in, then corruption is bound to come. I had a student in IIT, very bright student, whom I had recommended to get into Harvard MBA. His name was Rajat Gupta. And one day I found now he had risen to great heights. And what happened to him? Why did he have to do what he did? It is that greed to be the richest Indian that he did what he did. Namely, trade in information, insider trading, which is a big crime in this country, and justifiably so. I have found that everywhere where people have been corrupt, it is because not there's something genetically wrong with them, but it is desire to be socially important through the power of money. Think that you have money, then you're everything in society. That has to change. I'll say for the long run, if you want to cure corruption in India, you have to see that the old values of simplicity come back. You should venerate knowledge, you should venerate sacrifice, and we are not looking down on making money. Of course, money should be made. You need material prosperity. But you should not become acquisitive. You should not regard that as an end in itself. You should not develop greed. These only is the only religion I know which actually explicitly says this is the Sanatan Dharma, and this is why we were a continuous society and honest. If we were an honest nation so many years ago, it was because we followed Sanatan Dharma. But in the short run, there are ways of fighting corruption. For instance, in the railway reservation, brought in, the credit has to go to Rajiv Gandhi, we brought in computerization. Today there is hardly any corruption in railway reservations. Technology has solved the problem. Similarly, downloading of forms in your house through the computer, or you go to a computer kiosk and get it downloaded. So you don't have to go to the office and give the chaprasi some money and then the boss some money to get you forms, even to get forms. So the technology is doing part of it. The second thing which is very important is that you must catch big people when they engage in corruption, not small people. Small people later on, it will happen automatically. Catch the big fish, the big crocodiles, and put them in jail. And that is what I am doing. I get many phone calls every day. You see, I get many phone calls, people phoning me up, हमारे घर के पास जो थाना है वो थानेदार चोर है, उसका कुछ करिए. I tell them that, you see, I can't go around the country going after every thana. But people have now that faith that something can be done. But I am saying if I can catch a few people, and of course we have indicted people, sent them to jail, but they have yet to be convicted. I am expecting by December, January, they will all get convicted and one by one go to jail. All the cases are very clear-cut. Raja very clearly gave licenses to two non-deserving companies by seating the CEOs of that companies in his room. All this has been proved. All the witnesses, everything is over now. Only the final stage of the trial is left. And Raja's conviction is certain. Kanimori's thing you may be seeing in the JPC, the CBI has brought out all the payments that have been made. See, many of the payments are made abroad, and then they get transferred from one company to another bank, like that. And you have to go through layers and layers. It's not an easy job. There was one lady today when I was having dinner was saying, why haven't you sent this person to jail yet? So I said, well, if we are an African nation, we can send people to jail at our wish. We have a democratic process. It's slow, we can speed it up by reforms and all that. But ultimately we must go through a procedure. And that procedure we have to go no matter what the problem is. I personally believe that the Indian system as it is today can be made to prosecute the corrupt and send them to jail. I have a fundamental disagreement with Anna Hazare on this point. He, or at least his team Anna, so to speak, they make out unless you pass a new law called Jan Lokpal Bill, that law, until that happens, corruption cannot be prosecuted. I don't agree. I am now on the verge of major breakthrough. Chidambaram, who people wanted me to send to jail, I nearly sent him to jail in the trial court. But the trial court judge, you see, poor chap, I have sympathy for him. What did he say? He was obviously under pressure, but he did half my work. I said Chidambaram and Raja decided the price together. So if Raja is in jail, Chidambaram should also be in jail. So the judge said, trial court judge said, that yes, Dr. Swamy has proved that Raja and Chidambaram decided the price together. But he did not lead any evidence to show that Chidambaram did it with a criminal intent. Now, yes, it is true that in a murder, you have to show criminal intent, that you were intent on killing somebody. It was not accidentally it happened or something, or you suddenly ran across the road and the car hit him or something like that. So in rape, in murder, you have to show. But not in corruption. Corruption, you have to only show that there's been a national loss, a lack of public interest. Criminal intent is not in the picture. You don't even have to show that the minister received a bribe. All you have to show is that he took a decision which benefited somebody, which was not in the national interest because it caused a loss to the nation. That I've already shown. Licenses have been cancelled as a consequence. So I am surprised that judge didn't know this. Because there are judgments which say that when it comes to corruption, you don't need criminal intent, very specifically. But I suppose, we must recognize that we can't be stronger than our judges. So I've gone in appeal to the Supreme Court. I went for the cancellation of licenses also. The High Court rejected my petition. I went to the Supreme Court. And Supreme Court heard me and reserved the orders. So I'm expecting a decision any day. In the meantime, I've got a new case against Chidambaram. Because he's the most corrupt minister we have. So in the end, I will probably file 19 cases against him. And he may have to go to jail for 150 years. And I wish that he lives up to 150 years. But the fact is that the next case I've taken up is that there was an Indian company called Aircel. And this Indian company, there was a Malaysian company called Maxis, which was partly laundering LTT money. It was owned by Anantha Krishnan in Malaysia, who was of Sri Lankan parentage. He's a Sri Lankan Tamil. And of course, very close association with LTT. And this Maran was the telecom minister. He told the owner of Aircel that Maxis wants to come into India. So you sell your company to him. She said, why should I sell my company? This is something I have, it's my child, I have reared it and so on, I can't do it. So Maran then put all kinds of restrictions and conditions and fines and so on. So this man's back broke and he agreed that, that he would sell the company to Maxis. But India has a law called on foreign direct investment that no foreign company can invest or buy shares of a company beyond 74%. 26% must be in the hands of an Indian. And that clearance or permission is to be given by Chidambaram. because at that time, because he was finance minister. The finance minister gives that clearance. So Maxis said, no, I want to buy the whole company. I don't want any Indian partner. Probably because he doesn't want the Indian partner to discover all the nefarious activities he was doing with the money. He said, I want 100%. So Chidambaram devised a procedure that Maxis will buy 74% and another company headed by an Indian but 100% financed by Maxis, which will not be made public, will buy the remaining 26%. So, therefore, in effect, he is buying 100% because the other company is totally controlled by Maxis. But it is headed by an Indian company, by an Indian. So, on that fig leaf, Chidambaram cleared the sale of Aircel to Maxis. So on that, on 3rd, it was to come on 25th, but then I said, I'm in Houston on 26th. How can I be in Parliament, in Supreme Court on 25th? So I asked the judge, can you give me an adjournment? So he's given me till 3rd August. So 3rd August, I'll be arguing, and I hope at that time, CBI inquiry is ordered into Chidambaram. And so if Chidambaram, his road to Tihar is cleared, then the next person I will take up is Sonia Gandhi. Only thing is that time is in essence because she has got pancreatic cancer and has had Whipple procedure surgery. So some people say it's terminal. I don't know. What is terminal is up to God. But there's a race against time. She is the most corrupt person in our country. And therefore, she must go to jail for these things. Or at least the money that she has taken out of the country has to be brought back. Bofors, I was not there. So it was in the hands of some other people. But this is something that I supervise, and I do it in a totally different way. I first of all make the CBI answerable to the Supreme Court. So there is a court monitoring of the CBI investigation. There was no court monitoring of CBI investigation in Bofors. There, Bofors did whatever their bosses in the Home Ministry told them to do. So they made a mess of the whole thing. But Bofors is not going to be, I mean, when I have a lot of time and I want some target practice, I will take up Bofors again, I can tell you that. But it's not a big thing. That today is gigantic corruption. Let me first finish with that. And then when I spare time, I'll go after Bofors again. Now, the issue is this, that 70 lakh crore rupees of India is abroad. Can I bring it back? Yes, that is Baba Ramdev's demand. But he doesn't know how to bring it back. That he asked me. I'm working with him. So I told Baba Ramdev, I'm telling you that this 70 lakh crores can be brought back if the government of India issues an ordinance. Why ordinance? Otherwise you have to bring a bill. Bill will take our discussion all. Today, our constitution, there is a provision, when parliament is not in session, you can enact a law without parliamentary approval for 6 months. And that's called ordinance. You issue an ordinance. You issue an ordinance saying all bank accounts held by Indian passport holders in 70 countries, which are all tax havens, are hereby nationalized. If any of Indian passport holder gives evidence that he has opened it legally, he has put money legally, we will denationalize it for him and return back his account. The remainder is the government of India's property. Can it be done? Yes, it can be done after the United Nations 2005 resolution. Now, because it's anti-terrorist operations, lots of things are happening. How did Gaddafi's bank account get seized? Not by the government of Libya. There's no government there. Some handful of people wrote a letter to Switzerland and they froze it. Mubarak, same thing happened. Today, the facilities are available by which you can do it. So, can you do it? There's only one catch. You know, the present government will not do it because it is their bank account, it is there. You see, give you the example of Germany. They found that their nationals had secret bank account in Liechtenstein. So what they did was, they asked Liechtenstein government, you see, please give us the names of these people. They have committed a crime. So Liechtenstein said, how can we? Ours is secret banking. Our business will be finished if it becomes known that his accounts are no more secret. So then Germany said, I see, is that so? So what they did is they caught hold of the senior-most officer of the Liechtenstein bank and gave him $500 million as a bribe. $500 million. And a guarantee that they will take him abroad and keep him safely somewhere. They said, please give us the details of all illegal bank accounts that is there. Because he won't know who's German, who's not German, so everybody's. So that gentleman put it all in a CD and gave it to the German government and then took the first plane and landed in the United States. There is a extradition trial going on in US and he's being defended. I don't think he will be extradited at all. But Germany then getting the CD, they downloaded it and separated it by nationality of account holders. And they found 24 countries officials had bank accounts in a small place like Liechtenstein. So they wrote to all 24 countries that we have obtained the bank accounts of some of your officials, and if you want the details, we'll be happy to send it to you. 23 countries wrote immediately, please send it to us. One country did not. Bharat Mata ki Jai, yes. That's correct. India did not write. So we had to go to the Supreme Court and say that this is available. 16 names are there, they're all top names, including Pranab Mukherjee's name. And he was finance minister. And these 16 names were obtained on Supreme Court order. But to date, the government of India is refusing, on one excuse after another, to release those names. Then France got, in its operation, 890 names of Indians holding illegal bank accounts in Hong Kong Shanghai Bank branch in Geneva. They did not ask, do you want it or not? They sent the names, yeah, these are your names. Even those are secret. They're not being released. So you can't really, I cannot take this fight against corruption to its finality and clean up the system unless you have the government with you. As an individual, I can do only so much. I can demonstrate that the system is capable of cleaning up. I have demonstrated that some people, however big they may be, can be caught. I think I told last time I was here, a complaint I received from the TR jail superintendent. I don't know whether you remember or not. The superintendent of CR jail told a friend of mine, please tell Swamy he's sending too many Madrasis to jail. So I said, what is wrong with that? I mean, Raja, Kadnimori, the Maran, Chidambaram, like that, you see. I said, what is wrong with that? He said, they come, this poor cook of mine, this Bawarchi, he cannot make masala dosa and idli, and that's all they want to keep on demanding. So I said, well, tell him to be ready. There will be an Italian lady coming, she will ask for pizzas. So I can do this one by one. But ultimately the government must come. And government can come. It's not a difficult thing. In 1977 the government came. That's how we got democracy. But no matter that the Janata Party broke up in 2.5 years. But had not Janata Party come to power in 1977, there would have been no democracy in India. We came, we changed all the amendments that were there in Parliament, which Indira Gandhi brought to finish off democracy and restored democracy. And of course, then the government went. But even if for a short while, if you come, that's enough for changing the whole scenario in our country. So I would say that I appeal to both, of course, Baba Ramdev is very cooperative. He and I work very closely, consult with each other, and I really admire him, you know. Britain came and looted our country. He went and bought one piece of territory from England. So I asked Baba, you have bought an island near England. Now when are you going to buy England? He said, nahi, samay par sab cheez hoga, he said. I am also pleased that one Gujarati called Mehta has gone and bought the East India Company. So people said, what is there in East India Company? A lot of property is there, but the symbol that ultimately the Indian has prevailed. You ruled us, but we bought that company. So I would say that today the country is awakened. But it must be transformed into a change in government. People say, everybody is thief and all that. So what? Even if everybody is a thief, keep changing the thieves. Don't keep one thief all the time. And I don't agree that everybody is a thief. I think, you know, if here and there aberrations are there, I would still say that, you know, this turnover of personnel, ministerial personnel, is very, very necessary for functioning of democracy. What can you people do? Well, I think you are living in a country which has enormous information. Somebody asked me in a meeting, I think in New Jersey, tell me one thing I can do. I said, okay, if you want one thing you can do, which I think you can't do, but if you can do, it will be a great thing. I said, you find out how Rahul Gandhi paid his tuition fees in Rollins College in Winter Park near Orlando. He went to some Christian outfit there called Rollins College. And he got, I don't know whether he got a degree or not, because Nehru family, nobody seems to have got a degree. So, but he paid his tuition fees by check, according to me, from a bank in Cayman Island. So, if you can get me proof of that, I'll send him to jail. Next day, he will be sent to jail. Like that, there are so many ministers, their children are getting educated here. Are they paying their own tuition fees? There are people who are buying property here. Sometimes these trials that take place, for instance, this trial of this Liechtenstein man, or that banker who was bribed, I'm told it's throwing up a lot of information, including the names. I have not got any idea whether the Indian names have come out in that or not. But somebody should track that. Some of these young people who are running, who are software engineers, they want to create a website. Excellent idea. This is the area you can assist. This is the area we can't do. I would say in the end, we need, like in America you have, some institute in India which trains investigators, which educates people on how to fight corruption, prepare position papers, have library, invite foreign guests for seminars. But to set up that requires 20 crore rupees. I find that, we Indians are not philanthropic-minded people. But if any of you can get together and give me 20 crores, I'll build an institute for you, which will create new class of investigators and will create a data bank. And I can tell you, India's talent, this CBI, well, everybody's giving them gali, they've got a lot of talent in them. And when they meet me privately, they cry. They say, hamari bezti ho rahi hai. But the fact is that they are able people, they are not allowed to do their job. You get a government which gives them a free hand. Like in 2G, we got them, the Supreme Court, to say, you'll only answer us. You will not talk to any minister. You'll take only orders from us. That's why the 2G came this far. Because we didn't allow the CBI to do what it wants. It can have an opinion. On Chidambaram, they say, no, because Chidambaram is the Home Minister. And CBI officers are all IPS. Their career, their confidential records, their promotion, their transfers, everything is controlled by Chidambaram. Now you ask the same CBI officers, catch this man. Naturally, they are reluctant. But they privately tell me that you get Supreme Court to send him to jail. After that, we'll ragado him, don't worry. So, India is bursting with talent. There's no shortage of it. But it requires some courageous people. And in my opinion, it requires a government. And that, the possibilities are now very large because the country is fired up on this question of corruption. There is new hope that corruption can be cleaned up. And with you, I only say, please don't spread despondency if you can't do anything else. Don't say, kuch nahi hone wala hai, koi pakda nahi jayega, sab chor hain. Say the country must be cleaned up. Say that no matter how long it takes, we want it to be cleaned up. Encourage people. Keep going. Not discourage them. Nahi, kuch nahi hone wala, waste of time, nothing happens. Opposition also the same. Everything is same. All are chores. So that despondency don't spread. Encourage people, especially these young, you got a huge talent in this country of Indians. Motivate them to do investigative work. Go into, there are organizations in Washington like Global Financial Integrity, the law officers. There's plenty of evidence in this country. RTI, the Freedom of Information Act is far superior in functioning here than in India. So those are the things where you can assist us. We in India think very highly of the NRIs because you are done so well. You have become the richest community of America. You have people are shining. Your younger generation is coming first in competitive exams and spelling bee exams also. All kinds of places you see, so there's an admiration. And therefore, like in the emergency, all you people, I remember addressing in Houston, one of the biggest meetings where Iranian students at the time opposing the Shah of Iran were also present. And the Americans who were present in the audience told these Iranians, why can't you be like Indians and fight and organize the way they do? And the emergency was fought when the whole world was saying that a poor country can never fight for a democracy. A poor country did fight and defeated Mrs. Gandhi in the elections. So therefore, this country has these great traditions. So keep the spirits up, keep the fight up, and encourage people to go ahead in the fight for corruption. This is what you can do. Thank you very much. Just before you start.
Yeah.
Yeah. I just want to tell you that Baba Ramdev is coming, he's going on a fast on 9th of August. And in sympathy, I think in the Arya Samaj of Greater Houston, at 6:30 on August 9th, there's a community meeting, 1972, when he was in Vidyarthi Parishad. And the first public meeting I addressed in Gujarat was organized by him when I came to address on what I called as the Swadeshi plan for India. Then in the state of the emergency, Gujarat had a Janata Morcha government, and therefore there was Indira Gandhi's writ didn't run there, and so we were free from arrests. So very often when I got tired going around the country underground, I would go to Gujarat. So the RSS had designated Modi to look after me. So whenever I came by train, he would be there at the station to pick me up. And he, Makaran Desai, and myself spent a lot of time together. So I've known him for a long time, but the friendship was re-established recently when he invited me for breakfast in Gandhinagar. And subsequently I've met in Delhi. And now in this September, I am going to address meetings at 5 places in Gujarat in his support. And therefore, I hope that answers your question. I don't think this such a long friendship can change overnight. Of course, I know that the Congress is targeting him, and but there's nothing very much they can do. The question would be about 2014 or 2013, whenever the elections comes. They may come earlier. There is a question of strategy. There are some people like myself who think that corruption and Hindutva are two issues on which the election should be fought. And as far as the NDA is concerned, you should tell JDU, tell us how many seats you want to fight, and we give it to them, and he said, you run it on your ideological basis. And the rest of the NDA, that is Janata Party, which is mine, Akali Dal, Shiv Sena, and Republican, and BJP, they're the remaining 5. They will fight together on this, because Akali Dal and Shiv Sena have no difficulty on Hindutva. And I think we should start tell people that this is the time for us to unite. The Hindus are under siege, the Hindus are under attack. Hindus will have to face a major problem when Taliban comes to power in Pakistan. And I think if we do that, probably you will get absolute majority, according to me. But that risk has to be taken. But there are other people who say, no, those days are gone. Now we must fight as NDA, and we must make common minimum program, etc. Modi is unlikely to be the choice of a coalition. Modi's best chance is if we get absolute majority. So it will ultimately depend on the strategy that is adopted at the time of the election.
Thank you, Dr. Swamy. I'm Dr. Shaladia. I wanted to share a couple of thoughts with you, and probably you can educate me a little, please. The first thing is Nehru Pandit has left 3 legacy. First one was the Kashmir issue, China invasion with Mr. Menon. And the third one, in his first cabinet, there was a Kidwai who had, I think, was heavily involved in corruption, probably 1.5 crore rupees then. The guy didn't do anything. And then comes his grandson, what he did. So I was wondering that his statues and other things could be removed from India after whenever the situation comes right. Other thing is, these 2 people are totally outside of country. Mr. Manmohan Singh was born in Pakistan. Sonia Gandhi was born in born in Italy. Then you have, I don't know, Wishy-Washy, this guy from the BJP was born in Karachi. So the point is that these outsiders are running the country, and they are the one who are making whatever the situation is going on at this particular time. And another thing is there is a President Azim Premji, the industrialist, is just saying that the country is leaderless at this time. And the last point I wanted to make very clearly is this: look, it's not outsiders' problem. English are gone 60 years ago. This is, we should look our face in the mirror, and we should ask ourselves, what are we supposed to do as a Hindu? If you look at the Bhagavatam that is recited, or Bhagavad Gita which is recited, that is only for Atma Gnan. But we are mixing up dharma and vyavahar together. So Hindus are very good at mixing up dharma and vyavahar. So please kindly see that the question is this: in this particular situation, what Hindus has to be doing? You see, you have 7-8 days, the guy is talking, thousands of people are listening. The guy is so fat. He just keeps talking and talking. All the scriptures are question and answer. It is not just one person is talking. So the question is very simple, that for us, what would be the suggestion that you tell these people who are reciting Bhagavad and other things by themselves for 7 days and not coming to the point of Atmagnan, Dharma, and Vyavahar? Unless that happens, these people are not going to wake up. There is no way they can wake up.
Well, I would make one request. Whosoever want to ask question, let it be one question, very brief, so that other people can take part in the question. So,
well, this questioner didn't ask me any questions at all. He just made suggestions. So I mean, these are all very interesting suggestions he has made. So I'll think about it, but there's nothing for me to reply to a question just now.
Mr. Swamy, last year I went to China as part of my executive MBA trip, and what I saw there is a lot of non-resident Chinese who may be American nationals went back and started companies and providing a lot of employment, even creating green technologies to reduce their oil dependence. If we want to do, a lot of us, we don't have big money, maybe it's barely life savings $100,000, like 50 lakh rupees, want to come back and start a company, and we are worried, first, the cost of commercial real estate itself will bound that. Second, there would be corruption. With meager savings, we have ideas we cannot implement because hiring an engineer itself will cost $100,000. There, I mean, in Bhopal, there's 74 engineering college, you can hire one guy in 5,000 rupees. That's workable. But the things that scares us, and we don't know if there's a way or something you guys can do, is create opportunities for sea turtles of Indian origins to come back.
Well, it's a suggestion. I think I went back and nobody even gave me a red carpet to come back. You come back and fight and be a new person there. I don't think we want people who are brought and looked after. We want people who will come as pioneers. I mean, when the West was opened in the United States, there was no red carpet laid. People went and did it. So you come, fight it, let there be corruption, fight corruption. You find land is very expensive, don't go to Bombay, go to Chhattisgarh. You know, it's not the whole of India is expensive. There are some cities which are expensive. So there are solutions available, but you must be able to do by fighting. You can't expect a separate category created for NRIs to come and invest in India.
Dr. Swamy, there are still 7 questions in this. People haven't picked their receipt, but a lot of notes in this are mostly thank you for the great work, and relationship to Modi was answered by you already, and a few others. I just wanted to thank you about the Ram Setu work you had done. Thanks from bottom of my heart. And to answer the previous question about Bhopal and real estate, as Dr. Swamy said, you have to build courage. And, I was there last year myself. My question is, I think we can fight corruption by implementing technology. And there are several thoughts which I'll email you, and I'll get a feedback. Thanks.
Yeah.
Only question, if you have a valid, quick question. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Yeah, sure. You can reply to him directly. Sure.
Dr. Swamy, first of all, wishes to you for prosecution of P. Chidambaram. My question is probably on a lighter vein as we are closing on. Now, your wife is also a Supreme Court advocate. In your fights, have you always been winning arguments with your wife as well? In your arguments with your wife, have you always been winning the arguments?
No, I never argue with her because I can't win those. So anytime she says anything, I said, yes, you must be right.
Thank you very much.
And she's a girl from Gujarat, so she's quite fierce. These Gujarati women are very tough.
Can you please give us a couple of more minutes to just wrap up, and please have a seat. I would really appreciate if you can just sit down for a couple of minutes. I know everybody is anxious to get back, and we would like to close this with a vote of thanks.
This I should have done much earlier, but I want to do it now. The Hindu Mahasabha has decided to award Dr. Swamy the title of Dharmavir. And toward that, we will present to Dr. Swamy, not right away, but moments later, a check, an honorarium for $2,000.